In this video, we will discuss about the factors on which resistance of a conductor depends. So basically, what are those factors? Before we get into that, let us just imagine we have to travel from A to B. In first case, the way of travel is less, but the way of travel is more for the second case. Normally, in practical scenario, we know that if the traveling route is more, then we have to face more traffic. So according to that concept, we can say that in the first case, traffic will be very less but very high in second case. So if you can see, these are the two paths, point A to B, this is point A to B. In first case, you have to travel very less distance. So in this case, you have to travel more distance. But if you can just think practically, then we can see if we have to travel a long distance, we have to pass through or go. In this route, we will observe or experience less traffic, but in this path or this route, we will observe a lot of traffic. So depending on this issue, we can just take the same logic and apply to memorize about the factor length affecting the resistance in an electric circuit. So we can just take the similar example and consider it with a resistance in an electric circuit. So, how does this factor called length? So, here length is nothing but the distance. How is this length affecting the resistance in an electric circuit? So, we have to think about it. So, here the traffic represents resistance and the way of travel denotes the length of the conductor. So, since here, if you can consider in this example, the traffic is dependent on the distance. So, if the distance is more traffic. If the distance is less traffic. Like the same, length also will affect the resistance. How? Whenever the length of the conductor is increased, then resistance also increases. So it is very simple. So if the distance increases, traffic increases. Distance decreases, traffic decreases. Like the same, if the length increases, then the resistance of a conductor also increases. This is how you can easily remember. Now, if you can look at this particular example, that is the first factor. Resistance of a uniform metallic conductor is directly proportional to its length, that is L. If you can see here, this is 1 unit, that is 1 meter length. So the resistance is R. If it is 2 meters, then you have to multiply. The resistance will increase. So R into 2. Now if it is 3 meters, then resistance will increase by 3. It's R into 3. So as the length increases, resistance also increases. So this is the first factor that will influence resistance. Now just imagine that we have to travel to a place which has got two routes. Now what are those two routes? So these are the two routes. One is a narrow road and the other one is a wide road. So similar to the last case, if we can tell that through the narrow road, traffic will be high, whereas it will be less in wide roads, because in a narrow road just one vehicle can fit in, so it will take a lot of time and there will be a lot of traffic. But if you take a wide road, then you can reach the destination faster. So on applying this concept, we can disclose that the second factor affecting resistance is nothing but the thickness of the wire or conductor used. Narrow road represents small area of cross section of the conductor. On the other hand, wide road represents large area of cross section of the conductor. So if you can observe, so this is more area of cross section, that is less resistance. That means if there is more area or if it's a wide road, there will be less traffic. That means less resistance. On the other hand, if you just take a conductor which has less area of cross section, then it will have more resistance. So since the area is less, there will be more traffic. That means more resistance. So just relate it to the traffic and the road, then it will be easy. Now, the second factor is nothing but the resistance of a uniform metallic conductor is inversely proportional to the area of cross section, that is A. So, if the area of cross section increases, then the resistance decreases. If resistance increases, area of cross section decreases. So, that is what is the relation between resistance and area of cross section, which means they are inversely proportional to each other. Resistance is inversely proportional to area of cross section. Now, let us look at the third factor. So, apart from these two factors, resistance is also dependent upon the nature of the material used. So, what is that particular material made up of? So, R is directly proportional to length, inversely proportional to area. So, combining these two equations, we basically get R is proportional to L by A. So removing the proportionality constant and replacing with equal to, we say R is equal to rho L by A. Here rho is a constant and L is length, A is the area of cross section. R is resistance obviously. So if you can look at this image, this is the length of the conductor and rho is nothing but the resistivity, that is the constant. So R is equal to rho L by A. So A is nothing but the cross section or the width of the conductor. So where rho is a constant of proportionality and it is called electrical resistivity of the material of the conductor. So now basically the SI unit of resistivity is ohm meter and it is a characteristic property of the material. The metals and alloys have very low resistivity in the range of 10 to the power of minus 8 ohm to 10 to the power of minus 6 ohm. They are very good conductors of electricity. Insulators like rubber and glass have resistivity of order of 10 to the power of 12 to 10 to the power of 17 ohm meters. So both the resistance and resistivity of the material vary with temperature. So now if we can observe these quantities, we can see the SI unit of this resistivity. That means the SI unit of rho is ohm meter and it is a characteristic property of the material that is used. So metals and alloys usually have low resistivity. So low resistivity means high conductivity. So since metals and alloys have low resistivity, they can conduct well and their resistivity range is 10 to the power of minus 8 ohm meter to 10 to the power of minus 6 ohm meter. So they're very good conductors of electricity. But if you consider insulators like rubber and glass, they have high resistivities. That means in the order of 10 to the power of 12 to 10 to the power of 17 ohm meters. And always remember that this resistance and resistivity of a material will vary with temperature. Now, in this table, we can actually see the materials and their resistivities. The first category is the conductors. So, silver 1.60 into 10 to the power of minus 8, copper 1.62 into 10 to the power of minus 8, aluminium 2.63 into 10 to the power of minus 8, tungsten 5.20 into 10 to the power of minus 8, nickel 6.84 into 10 to the power of minus 8, iron 10 into 10 to the power of minus 8, chromium 12.9 into 10 to the power of minus 8, mercury 94 into 10 to the power of minus 8, manganese 1.84 into 10 to the power of minus 6. So these are the values of resistivity for these conductors. So next is the alloys. These are the categories. So alloy is the second category. The first one is constantan, which is the alloy is nothing but the mixture of two or more metals. So this is the alloy of copper and nickel, which has the value 49 into 10 to the power of minus 6. Next is manganin, which is the alloy of copper, manganese and nickel, which has resistivity about 44 into 10 to the power of minus 6. Next is nichrome, which is the alloy of nickel, chromium, manganese and iron, which has 100 into 10 to the power of minus 6. Now these are alloys. Now let us see insulators. So in the insulators you have glass, that is 10 power 10 to 10 power 14. Next is hard rubber 10 power 13 to 10 power 16. Ebonite 10 power 15 to 10 power 17. Diamond you have 10 power 12 to 10 power 13. And the last one is the paper, which is dry one, which is present in our books, that is 10 power 12. So depending on all these, the table reveals that the resistivity of an alloy is generally higher than that of its constituent metals. So if you can see, the resistivity of all these alloys are higher than that of these constituent metals. So alloys do not oxidize, that means burn readily at high temperatures. For this reason, they are commonly used in electrical heating devices like electric iron, toasters, etc. So basically, alloys will not oxidize or burn at high temperatures readily. So because of this particular reason, they are used in electrical heating devices like iron, which we use to iron our clothes, and toasters that we use to toast bread. So we all know tungsten is used most exclusively for filaments of electric bulbs, whereas copper and aluminium are generally used for electrical transmission lines. So we use, the bulb has a filament, so this filament is responsible for the glow of that bulb. So the bulb is glowing because of the filament. So this particular filament inside the bulb is made up of tungsten, and we all know all the electric wires are made up of copper and aluminium. So the transmission lines are made up of copper and aluminium. Thank you.